Hello everybody and welcome back. My name is Locke. Back from the dead. Well, not actually. It's cold here. It's winter. We're all coming back from the holidays and we're going to take a look at Endless Legend. This is a 4X game come to us from Amplitude, the awesome peeps from France who are responsible for other games with the Endless moniker in them, such as Endless Space. You may have heard of it. It's a 4X strategy space game. Awesome game. Very well done. As well as the more recent Dungeon of the Endless. And that was a roguelike, one of the best roguelikes I've ever seen and played. Roguelikes are tough to do, and there are very many different kinds out there, but Dungeon of the Endless was awesome. But that's neither here nor there. We're talking about Endless Legend. Now, what is Endless Legend? It is a fantasy-based version of, you could say, Master of Orion. Another comparison is Civilization, you know, all those 4X games. But the closest one is actually, I would say, the closest one is probably Fallen Enchantress. And that being said, Fallen Enchantress used to be called Elemental. It was a big debacle, but anyways, the closest thing to Endless Legend, if you don't know what this game is Fallen Enchantress. And I think that it's a bad idea to make a comparison to something like Civilization, even Civilization Beyond Earth, because it may be similar in theme and in hex grids and that sort of thing, but really the Endless games have a lot more going on. There's a lot of different things to manage, and that might be a turnoff for some people. But one of the cool things I find with Amplitude is that in every one of their games, it always goes into early access, and they basically they let the community vote on what direction they're going to do. So all of their games have been in, they fall into the trap, the early access trap, where you are looking at a game for so long, you thought it was released, and you kind of forget about it because it was in early access, and then it gets released. And I bet Endless Legend was one of the games of 2014 that went under everyone's radar because it didn't get this big fanfare of release, and you know, kind of looks generic on the Steam store with so many different things. But I am here to tell you otherwise. Anyways, 4X. Explore, explore, expand, exploit, exterminate. And these types of games are all about deep, complex gameplay, an emphasis placed upon strategic, economic, technological development, as well as being able to win by military or non-military and tons of different sort of routes to supremacy. So let's get into this. Enough talking about Endless Legend. Let's actually get into a game here. So yeah, it's basically, you start every game like this, you kind of set it up. This is pretty typical for this type of game, and I want to talk a little bit about the factions. I won't go into all of them because they're all I'll go into all of them very briefly because they're all very different, and we'll sort of set up a game here with a bunch of different factions. But first off, we have the Wildwalkers. Sorry, they are the sort of elf race, and everything typical with elves, where you get lots of tree-based things. Very good they're like the building empire. They're very good at industry. You have the Broken Lords, which are all about gold, and in this universe, it's actually called dust. So they're all about the dust, and the Broken Lords are a very interesting faction, very powerful, and they're very interesting because they actually don't use food in this game, and you'll see why that's such a big deal. The Vaulters, this is my least played faction. They are kind of these space Vikings, so if you're down with that, they look really neat. I just don't seem to use them very much, but they are quite interesting. They're very good at researching and doing science. Even though they are Vikings, they are actually a technological race, which is kind of cool. And you can see them actually in the background here of the start screen. They're these guys looking at these different artifacts, and they have a really cool ability to sort of teleport around the map, hence the name Vaulters. Next up, we'll skip the Mezari because they are just a palette swap of the Vaulters. I got those. You get those for buying the Empire edition of this. of Endless Legend, the Necrophages. This is the Zerg race of Endless Legend, and they are they're warmongers, and they are very cool because they actually increase their population by eating other units and eating their enemies and turning them into part of the swarm, basically. So they're a hive mind. They're a very cool, fun race to play. The Ardent Mages, these are the wizards, the nerds. They use spells, and they have a really cool specialized system of pillars that you can do around the map, but they're very powerful and very cool looking. Roving Clans, this is the sort of Middle Eastern inspired sort of dirt, dust, devil, dervish guys that are very economic based, and they actually can control the market really well. The Draken, the Dragons, the ancient race that are so good at diplomacy. Finally, the last one, the Cultists. The Cultists are interesting because this is actually a community created race, and there's a contest that the Cultists won, and obviously the developers took some ideas from there and moved it on to what the original creator of the Cultists did. But a very, very cool race. They actually can only make one town, one city in the whole game, and they expand, and they just make this one huge city, and they want everyone to follow them. So let's set up a game here. We'll be let's be the Vultures, because we don't play it as them very much. Throw on the Necrophages, Mages. We can throw in Roving Clans. We can throw in the Draken and the Broken Lords. So there we go. And then what you also want to look at is you have all these cool things you can tweak for game pace. If you want certain amount of time, this is especially important during multiplayer. Battle pace, I would actually recommend turning up the speed of the animations, because they're kind of slow. Yeah, I would say turn up your speed scale to fast. Very fast if you want it to go, if you're doing a video cast like this and you don't want things to go quickly, so put that on fast. Apply those. And then this is the real interesting thing, which is I just love this. You go into advanced settings for your world map, and you can tweak everything in here. It's really, really cool what you can do, and you can just go and tweak all these settings. So it's insane, and it's fun to I like, you can customize it to your tastes, but let's just throw the randomization on. Just make it as random as you can get. You can go random, custom there, random. Let's just go random. Continent shape, random. World difficulty. This is actually where I would yeah, this video will be on YouTube. Yeah, this is a live cast, but I'll also put it on YouTube, so you don't have to watch the whole thing now. It's actually going to be quite long. I'm probably going to go for at least an hour. I'm just going through some of the intricacies of the game that you can do. So we'll get all this to rare. Actually, for the purpose of this, I'll leave them on normal. I'll leave it there on normal, and we'll start this up, and this will take a second to boot up. So each faction actually has a bunch of lore associated with it, and I highly recommend pay attention to that, because it's really cool. It gives a good feeling to the game, and you will see the first intro video here that I'll skip through actually, but you can go in, you can basically just like get engulfed in your race, and it's cool. So I highly recommend checking out the lore and reading and watching the little cutscenes and that sort of thing. But for the purpose of the video, we'll skip through the first cutscene, and we'll get on to more important things like tile sets and UI.
Our legends.
All right, so here we are. We'll ignore this for now, because that Drakon there, because they are the diplomatic faction, they get to see everybody at the start of the game. So first things first, as you can tell, this game is beautiful. It's got a hex grid. Who doesn't like hexes? Seriously, best thing to come out of Civilization 5. So we have a lot of things to go through, but I'll kind of break it down bit by bit here. First things first, you want to look at the UI, and up here in the top left corner you can see that you have a bunch of different buttons, and the first thing you see will be this is your Empire screen, and we'll go through all of these one by one, but I'll just go through these quick. You can see that. So these are all your buttons to manage your stuff up here, and then below that you have your dust, and the dust is, like I said, it is the currency. And let me know, guys, if the music is too loud, because it's coming pretty hot in my headphones, but I don't know what it's like on the other end. Anyways, we got the dust here. That is your money, and you use that to build units, use to bribe factions, to buy things, to rush buildings, just like as other 4X games. You use that to buy out stuff. Next up, you have your research panel. We'll get to that once we start some research. And right here you have your influence, which is used for diplomatic relations as well as assimilating minor factions, and we'll get into that right away here. Let's move down to the turn button, and we'll get into that, which we have here. We can click next army, basically so you don't forget about somebody. This button here is highlighted when you have a path and you want them to move along that path, and say it takes like 6 turns and you don't want to micromanage every guy. You just hit that and they'll move along there. They'll basically use their unused moves. That's game options. Right here, it'll be really hard to see, but you can see it to the right of the end turn button, and that is when winter will come. And at some point in the future, in the land of Auriga, the name of the land is Auriga. It's a beautiful place, and I highly recommend you visit it at some time. This is winter, and winter is it flip-flops between winter and summer. So obviously right now we're in summer, lush, things are green and lots of stuff grows. In winter, that's when production halts, food goes down, and basically it's the dark times, and it's it's nuts. So that is a huge thing you don't see in a lot of other games, is the weather, the winter timer there. So you can see in the game difficulty we have it on now, which I think is normal, which is pretty easy, but in 36 to 56 turns, winter will happen. Down here are all the factions. We can see that ours is the Vultures, and over here we can see there's a Draken, and the other ones we haven't met yet. This button here turns on the hex grids. You can see them, they're a little faint. You can see them in there. I like playing them with off because the game's just beautiful. You can zoom right in, see what's going on. You can zoom right out to the cloth map, everybody's favorite cloth map, and that you'll see as the world, as we discover more of the world, we'll see more of that, but that gets more impressive later on. Finally, one of the most important things is the output of the FIDC, and we click that and you can see what each tile does. So all around here is lots of different things. So you have food, science, dust, production, and each tile will give you a different set of that. So you can see these forest tiles here give you 1 food, 2 production, whereas these rocky fields give you 3 science, 1 production. And over here we got a lake, looks like they give you 2 food, 1 dust, and that's how you sort of base your city around what it's going to produce. Very similar to Civilization in the tile set like that. But I'll stop making comparisons to that because I think it's unfair to both games, as they are very different. Let's go into the Empire screen. We'll go through each of these and sort of how each of them applies to the game, and then we'll get into a little bit more of the gameplay after that. This is your Empire management screen, and this is it looks very complicated, but once you break it down, you kind of will have a grasp. And again, a downfall of 4X games is that they are complicated. There's a lot of stuff to pay attention to, but once you learn all that stuff, it's so cool to be able to manipulate that. So let's go into this. What do we have here? Well, obviously we have our faction, the Vultures. Gives you a little flavor text there. It gives you all of the different abilities that the Vultures have and the text that they start with. So the Vultures are interesting, and each faction has a really cool sort of trait. Like I said, the Necrophages eat other people. Well, the Vultures in this case, they have a holy resource, and they basically grant one holy resource that they will mine, and they use that and they worship it, and it gives you tons of boosters. So that's where you'll find this. Also gives you a summary, as we saw up here, of your treasury and your influence points. Very important when doing lots of sort of macro things. Your approval. This doesn't apply since we don't have any cities built and we don't have any citizens. Again, the approval status here. What else? We have the faction traits we went into. Resources. We don't have any resources yet, but this is where you will see them. Luxury resources and strategic resources we'll get into a bit later when we build some of the generators for those. Things like wine and honey, as well as the different ores, glass, steel, and titanium, I believe. Anyways, moving on. Empire bonuses over here. There's a lot of words, but it is worth seeing all of these because it will tell you why your empire is doing well or what is causing it to sort of fall. We can see that we get +1 science on a terrain with science from Knack for Knowledge. So we know that we are heavily invested in looking for science terrains, and I would recommend whenever you play, look through these empire bonuses from time to time to see what you are getting, what are you benefiting from, and what you need to fix. Also, your trade routes come up when you get that technology. We won't talk about that right now. Over here, assimilated minor factions. This is, we'll get into later, but this is where you can assimilate minor factions and get allies. Not allies, but you can basically hire creatures from that faction to work for you. It's really cool. It's a really interesting thing that's unique to this game. Finally, your empire plan, which is broken into these 4 different stages, and we can simulate what we cannot change an entry right now, but as you get more influence, you can spend it on your empire plan in these different directions, whether you want to go more militaristic, more economic, more production focused, or more influence based, and those will come every 20 turns. It's a very interesting system. So that is your empire management screen. There's a lot of information there, but it is all very important. All right, next up, let's go on to the city list. Doesn't matter right now because we don't have cities. Research, yes, the tech screen. Every good 4X game has the tech screen, and Endless Legend is actually one of the better tech sort of things. Endless Space had a bit of a wonky tech system, but this is kind of similar, but it's a little more digestible. It's broken down into the 6 eras, and in each of the eras, you have the same things. You have more military, empire and expansion, science and industry, and then economy and population. Those are what those 4 quadrants are split up into. We have the 4 types of tech, like we said, but the cool thing is that nobody is restricted to anything. You will have special yellow-based technologies, like here, that are unique to your faction. You can also see up here the Titan and the Deep Generator. Those are unique to the Vaulters, and there's some scattered. But for the most part, all of these techs are available to everyone. Different factions start with different techs. You can see here I have the Open Pit Mine, as well as the Public Library. And now I can choose whatever I want. It's really interesting, and you can queue these up. And a cool thing for this system is that you can see here, this number 2, this second research area, you need 10 techs. We have 2 techs right now. Oh, sorry, 9. 2 of the 9 technologies we have researched to get to this next era. So you can research, I need to research 7 more on this screen, on this first era, to get to this, to unlock this one. And then all of these will be available for me, which is really cool. And it allows you to basically plan your empire from your research screen. And obviously you can change it as you go through and sort of adapt to how the game goes, but you can kind of pick a direction and go. If you want to go as a really military faced, you can, get weapons really early, or if you want to focus more on production and population and getting an economy going, and that's the beauty of these games. You're not locked into one type of playing. You kind of have to read the map and then kind of roll with it. You always are adapting, which is really cool. There are some staples that you want to get, things like the Holy Trinity, as one of my friends calls it, is get your mill foundry, get your seed storage, and then get your public library, which we already have. Those are your basics that you want to start with in almost every civilization. Sorry, with every faction. And it's cool, but I do like that system sort of as you unlock. And you can even, when you get to Era 2, to unlock Era 3, you can still get some of the Tier 1 technologies here, or the Era 1 technologies to unlock Era 3. So it's a total amount there. And but just remember that you don't have to get all of the techs from that era. It's kind of impractical to do, because these techs over here are far, far greater than these ones, and that holds true as you go up to the research. And as you can see, Era 6 is just insane. It's tough to get up there, especially when you have people pounding on your door. So we've queued up some techs, and we'll exit the research screen. Let's move on to we'll go to the military screen. I can see here, gives us a breakdown of our armies, breakdown of our units, and I can see right here we've got, in our army, we've got our settler, we've got a marine, which is led by our hero, which is Petrov Judit. And let's go into this, and this is one of my favorite things, and this is one of the things I saw in Fallen Enchantress that I loved so much. And this is the unit builder, and you can go in and you can see, okay, that's a settler. Let's go into the Marines. Okay, that's what the Marines look like. Cool. He's got a cool beard, braided beard. Like I said, Space Vikings. And you can go in here and you can make a new one based on this template. These are basically templates, and you build from there. So we'll go new unit. We're going to base it on that Marine. And then we're in the unit builder. And this is so cool because it does all the heavy lifting for you. You don't have to choose where stuff goes. You kind of have this paper doll method to building your units. We'll call these, we'll say Space Viking. And this is awesome because you can see it's part of the Vaulters. He has a ranged unit, which comes into play in combat. And we'll see here, this is all the different equipment that you can put on. If you want to put on, you know, a bow, you know, can have a two-handed bow. And you'll get more weapons, accessories, and armor as you unlock them on the tech tree. Let's give him that shield and crossbow there first. You can give him some armor, beef him up, get him really... And all of these different things isn't just cosmetic. It's actually giving you different things. So we can see that we get +9 attack and +1 initiative for having this crossbow. Whereas if we had this longbow, it would be +12 attack and +5 damage. But you also get those... capacities over here. They're kind of like perks. So this guy gets a range of 3, Techno Lover, Point Blank Power 1, and Block 1. And he gets that block from that shield. So if I switch this to the longbow, that block disappears, and now I have a Flying Slayer. He's more of a glass cannon because he doesn't have that shield to block, but he can do some major damage to flying guys. Do that, and then we can, you know, toss some, you know, put a ring on him, you know, put a ring on it if you like it. And you can see all their stats up here. Attack, defense, initiative. Initiative is how fast they act in battle, which is actually super important in this game. And damage, the damage inflicted. And then what it's going to cost. Obviously, the more equipment you put on a unit, so if I take these all off, there, the production cost is going to go down. So keep that in mind when you're building your unit. So we'll validate that, and now we have the Space Viking right there, ready to go. He looks awesome. Finally, for the military screen, I think that we can talk about heroes. Right here, if I go into the hero, it's very similar to the unit builder. You can see you can customize your hero. They usually have, well, they will always have better stats, and these will grow as they level up. All units level up, by the way, not just heroes, which is interesting. And if you can see here, this equipment will cost me 45 dust to put it on out of my 50, so that's quite a bit right now. Later on, it's not so much. But the one thing, you'll see that the heroes have a long list of traits and perks that they have, and that comes partly from their equipment, but also from their just inherent abilities, which is why heroes are so powerful. The other thing that makes heroes cool is that they have this awesome skill tree that you can customize. Basically, it's broken into, you know, these 3 different sections. Middle section is common to every single hero. This is the same for every hero. You will always have these same skills. The one on the left is specific to the hero, The one on the right is specific to the faction. So if you want it to be a very good governor in your city, maybe go down the right-hand path. There's no, you know, you can mix and match things, and you can see that some can get to, you can go up this path and kind of delve to the right, or you can go straight up on the right. If you want them to be more of a fighter, maybe go up on the left, and they give you lots of class-based bonuses. So you can get like plus attack over there, whereas over here you get something like plus there, like that one, plus science. Huge bonuses. So that's the hero builder. Yep, we're gonna leave those changes. We love our Space Vikings. It's great. What else have we not looked at? We haven't looked at the marketplace. We will look at that later when I'll go into a game where I have a marketplace built and we can see what that is all about. But you can get things like, once you research the tech, you can buy heroes, you can buy units, you can buy the different resources, the luxury ones, the strategic ones, and those all come into play later on. The marketplace is so cool and so important in this game that they based a faction around it. That Roving Clans faction is all about controlling the marketplace, which I love. I think that's so ingenious because a lot of the times in these games, it's just like, just fight. The biggest guy fights, whereas if you control the marketplace and you want to go for an economic victory, you can basically choke those fighting guys out because they don't have any money to build their armies. It's really neat. Alright, so let's get to actually playing the game. So that's the UI. We talked about the turn button and everything down here. This one, your best friend when settling cities because you can see what is happening. So I like leaving that on for when I'm settling cities. And I'll give you some basics here. I won't go through like a big tutorial on how to play, but just sort of what I'm doing. So we're going to split up our army here so we can scout a bit. And we're going to send these Vikings up here. You can see that there's snow up here, which is very important. We're also going to see an edge of a minor faction. We'll talk about this in a second. We're just moving around and seeing what is available. So we've got a couple different things. We're looking at, like, there's things on the map called anomalies. We can see right here, a botanical garden. We got 2 botanical gardens right beside each other. That's insane. That's crazy. Over here we have some geysers. Up here we have some black dust. This is we're very, very lucky. I've never seen this many anomalies in one place. So we'll split off this marine over here to go search on this side. More anomaly. Oh no, there's a glass steel deposit. So that's one of the strategic resources that you use for weapons and armor. Over here we got some dyes. Down here we have mineral rich. Oh, just crazy amounts of stuff. Well, I am looking, and these right here, this is so much good science, which is good for our faction, that I kind of want to settle right. I want to settle right on this ruins here. Can I do that? I can't remember. And you'll see, oh, you can't. So when you have a settler, you'll have this colonization button, and you can see how big your city will be. So I'm thinking I really want to get over here, so on this science and on these botanical gardens. This is such a hot spot, and what's cool is that you can expand your cities manually and build them out and across, and they can become very vast. And one of the strategies in a game like this is you can be a tall sort of faction or a wide faction. Tall meaning that you have very few but well-developed cities, or a wide faction is you are very expansive. You have a bunch of small little cities across the whole land. So Vaulters are more of a tall faction. You want to hold in and research as much as you can. But I'm thinking that we go... Do we get much? We don't get much food from... Oh yeah, we do. We got 8 food here. Around here, I'm really liking this. I do like this up here too. I might go up here. But these botanical gardens are too good to pass up. Maybe we could just... Maybe right here we could go and grab that. What is that? 1 food. It's basically the difference between this tile and this tile, and I think I'd rather have the science at the start instead of the dust. So I'm going to go right here. This is really good for us. So we'll settle here, and we'll get our first city. And you can see there's a bit of a weird UI bug. Those hexes right there shouldn't be going through the city. Anyways, there's our first city. And we'll turn those off. And now we only see what we're producing when we click on the city, and not always. So If I click on the city, you'll see what we're getting from that. And we'll go into the sort of next sort of thing, which is the FIDC, or City UI. And this is one of the most important parts of the game because you'll be spending a lot of time managing your cities, which I like. I think it's fun micromanaging them. Some you can turn them to automated, and if you just want to sort of roam around the map. But I think if you want to get pretty strategic, you do want to pay attention to this. So with your first city, you can see up here we have FIDC, and what that stands for is Food, Industry, Science, Dust, Influence. So FIDC, you can see over here. And within each of these, you are getting different bonuses. So at the start, this is your production per human. We have one human working here, or one population working here. And if we move these across, they will make that different thing. So you can see they're making 2 influence a turn, or if I move them over here, it's a good idea to get more population. As you grow them over here, you can see that in 2 turns, I will get 1 more population. That's how you grow it. If you put them on here, they're going to help build things. And we, well, you know, if you want to build a Founders Memorial, a very good starting thing, you can only build this once, but it helps you immensely in giving you your first city bonuses. But I'm going to leave them on food there. Anyways, next is, this is where you will put all your different population workers, and as the game goes on, this will grow. City tiles, this is what we are gaining from these tiles we settled on. So you can count these up and they will add to these city tiles. So we're getting 12 food, 6 industry, 20 science, which is amazing for Vaulters, 11 dust, and 1 influence. Finally, any modifiers that we're getting. So we're getting plus 16 dust from our palace, or no, we're getting plus 22 from our palace, plus 5 from happy, and minus 10 from city upkeep for a total of plus 16. And of course the total. So this is what you're getting out of that city every turn. I know that's a lot, but this is so important because you can micromanage this, and it's important to get the most out of your city by moving around these workers and controlling what I want to talk about next, which is the building interface. And we'll expand these, and we will see that we get, and this is what your industry refers to. So when you have more industry, the buildings will build faster. So you can see this takes 9 turns because we only have 6 industry. If we move this over, this population guy over, it's going to take 6 turns because we're getting 11, total 11 industry. Anyways, so this is where you can queue up your different things, all the different extractors over here. Since we start with that tech, we can start mining this, as well as your marines. So we can queue up Space Vikings, and that's your building queue. You can move these around. Can delete them, and yeah, that's basically what happens on the building UI. You can minimize those. You can separate them from, you know, these are your city improvements, these are your regional and sort of expansions, and then obviously army. What else do we have to talk about? I'm going to take a sip of tea here. I guess I kind of skipped over the happiness panel with the population panel here. So I did explain you get 2, sorry, as based on what your food production is, this is how fast your population will grow. Up here is actually your happiness of your faction, and if you hover over it, you'll see we're getting plus 60 from approval and plus 20 from the city tiles, which is, I think, maybe from these anomalies. Yeah, we are getting plus 10 from each of these anomalies, which is huge. City, you don't want to be having a rebellious city because they will not build and produce things for you. So happiness is very important in Endless Legend. You can browse the improvements that you've built and delete them if you want, if you don't want to upkeep them anymore. And over here is what the city is costing. So that is the happiness sort of meter for that individual city. The one we saw on the Empire one is the sum of your entire cities. So if we had, say, 10 cities that were, some were happy, some were sad, that sort of thing, this would average out closer to whatever the average was. Finally, we can see the region over here to the left of the city is the region name. We can rename it if we want. We can call this, how about we call it, what is Viking Heaven? It's a Ragnarok. No, Valhalla. Let's call it Valhalla. Valhalla. So now we have the city of Valhalla. And I think that is actually reflected. Yeah, it is reflected in the region name. So you'll see that the region is now named Valhalla, and that's on the cloth map there. We'll see that. If we go to back into our city, we can see that those haunts we met over there are present, and there is one haunt village. The haunts are a minor faction. Below that, we see that there's a glass steel and a dye resource, and then the trade routes available. Those will come available in later areas with specific technologies. Let's go into the anomalies just quick. We can see that different anomalies give you different things, and it'll say the total output. It'll break it down for you, but the total output is at the bottom there. We are getting some crazy anomalies from the botanical gardens. I've never seen two together. That's crazy. If we go over here, where was that other anomaly? Oh yeah, the mineral rich. This is a very good for producing industry. 6 industry, that's a great tile. If you click on that, it'll automatically build the extractor for you. So we talked about the building UI, sort of what you want to queue up first. Obviously, Founders Memorial is very big. We're going to switch. Once we get some more population, we can help that build faster. And this city is going to be suffering from a little bit of population loss, but we'll have lots of technology, so we'll see if our science rush helps us out. What else do we want to talk about? Let's go into... So we talked about obviously you get more buildings as you research them. So as you research something like the mill foundry here or the seed storage, those will pop up. So we'll see in a couple turns. That happening. Right, and I'm just gonna do that. We'll do one turn because actually we'll talk about these minor factions because they're huge in the game. These minor factions, you'll see there'll be minor factions in every region. A region being this border here. You can see the green border, which is settled by me. No color means it's neutral and there's no faction there. You can only settle one city per region. So that's very important. If you settle there before your opponent, you take that region and they can't settle there. So if you're going for a wide strategy, it's important to get as many settlers out as you can and settle those regions around you and gather all those resources. The drawback from that is that you actually get a penalty to your existing cities. Their happiness goes down for that expansion disapproval. So there's a sort of give and take there. Oh yeah, minor factions. So when we discovered this minor faction, the haunts, this popped up. You'll get these little pop-ups here, and we can see, very scary, the haunts. They're these ghost-likes. So if they will produce, this faction will produce, every couple turns they'll produce these Ended, which are very powerful spellcasters. They have chain lightning, and they fly around the map. And every minor faction will produce this. It's pretty cool, and you'll see the wandering monsters around the map. Also, you can, like I mentioned when we were talking about the Empire screen, you can assimilate them. And you get a bonus for each village per pacify. Or if you pacify this minor faction, each village that they have in your region will give you a bonus. So these guys give you plus 5% science, which is perfect for my vultures here. So if I assimilate them. And you can do that in a couple different ways. But we'll get to that after we talk about, finish off the map UI here. So I think we can end our turn, and the computer will go. Yeah, we're going to talk about quests. You get quests a couple different ways. This is your main story quest. Every faction has a different main quest. You can go through the lore. This is what I was talking about, the lore here. You can read that. I won't read through it. But it'll give you a little flavor text and then what you need to do. So basically have to pacify a minor faction and assimilate them. And this is your reward, 20 tasty glass steel. So I'm definitely going to do that by assimilating these haunts. And then we will get the bonus from that faction. You can see in here, one of the things we didn't click on, our quest log, our quest journal. So as you explore ruins and get quests from minor factions, they will appear here. And yeah, you do them for different bonuses, and I highly recommend at least doing your faction quest because it is a very long quest, and you can actually win the game by finishing that quest. So we searched the ruins. I'm getting ahead of myself, but we got 30 dust from searching ruins. Okay, so we talked about anomalies. Very good tiles on around the map, and you want to look out for those. Don't get too caught up in. Don't let anomalies dictate your settling. If there is a better, more appropriate place without any anomalies. So I obviously got excited about these 2 botanical gardens, but obviously my industry is suffering. And if I put on the FIDSI grid, you can see I could have went up 1 more tile and probably got some more industry to help me in the early game production with these trees here, these forests. But unfortunately, I got greedy and didn't take my own advice. We talked about strategic resources, which will build you. There are 3 different three sort of tiers of strategic resources. The first one is glass, steel, and titanium. The next one we see in Era 3, which is, there it is, adamantium and palladium. Those, and then finally we see the last one in Era 4, and those will be mithrite and hyperium. You will not see those higher tier ones until you reach those eras, so they won't even appear on the map. So again, that's kind of cool. You don't have to sort of plan that far ahead. That being said, we got glass, steel there. We have luxury resources, which give you great bonuses to your faction. So if you extract enough dye to put a booster and affect that booster, you can see on the left there, I want to hover on this so it doesn't take the booster down, or take the pop-up down, but on the left you can see if I activate the booster, I get a plus 50% influence boost on my cities and plus 5 happiness. That's a really great booster, because then everyone will be happy because they're getting wicked dyes for their clothing. There's, I think, about 8 to 12 different luxury resources, and they all do different things, which is really cool. Keep in mind that the more cities you have, the more booster you have to spend. So if you only have 1 city, I think it's about 10 luxury resources to activate the booster. Ruins, that was what we explored right there and got that dust from. We can actually explore another ruin right up here. Oh, we'll go over here with these guys and let the hero explore that one. Actually, we'll do here, just because this doesn't matter, we're just explaining the game. Empty! You will get that from time to time. Empty ruins. I want to see if a quest pops for one of these. See if that happens. Nope, but we did, instead of dust, we did get glass steel. Very good, early in the game, glass steel. You can see over here, there's another anomaly. Sorry, that was my phone. Anomaly, which is the igloo larvae. And it's a kind of a good all-around FIDSI thing. Up here, we've got... Where did I see that other ruins? Oh, there's one right by my city. I could probably check that with my guys next turn. So, ruins. And then we talked about minor faction dwellings. You'll see those around the map. Also, the watchtowers are another important one. Those don't pop up till Era 2, but you'll see around the map different watchtowers will pop up, and those give you sort of vision when you build on them. One important thing, this is what I wanted to talk about. I got lost my train of thought, but you can see that there's different height here in the terrain. And that actually comes into play in battles. And when you fight a battle, which we'll go into in a couple moments here, but your units that are higher up will get a bonus when they're attacking units that are lower down. So you can see right here, it's a very high cliff, or very high terrain coming down into this sort of second level terrain, and then even lower down here. So it's pretty cool, and that's, even in the topography, there's strategy in that, and sort of mapping your battles and your strategy around topography, which I think is really cool. And it's not just, okay, I go in this hex, attack this hex. You have to actually be strategic, and I haven't seen that in a game like this. I haven't seen that in Heroes of Might and Magic. I haven't seen that advanced in any Civilization game. Even in Fallen Enchantress, you went to a different tactical screen. We'll see very shortly what I mean, because it flows so well. There can be a battle going on, and you can actually go manage other things while that battle's going on, and you can still control it. The other thing you want to keep in mind, cliffs. These are impassable pieces of land, so that's very important for when you're scouting around. And look at these little guys, weaver worms. Cool, I haven't seen those guys before. But these cliffs, you can't go past them. My guys have to go around them. It's really, really neat. So you see those all around the map. We've got, are there any other? Yeah, like right here. This is an impassable cliff, so you have to go around this way. And then, obviously, we talked about the camera zoom. We can see that there is a region, Achuk, to the north. One to the south, one to the left, two to the sort of southeast, and then one over here, straight directly east. So we're surrounded by a bunch of neutral territory. That being said, who knows? The other factions might have not settled their cities yet, which is the longer you wait to settle your first city, it gets pretty. You kind of fall behind. So you want to settle your city within the first couple turns. I want to actually talk about the minor factions for one more second, and I am going to. Do I want to load up a game, another game for this? I might load up another game for this, but we'll talk about that. Actually, yeah, we'll load up a game. So this is sort of the start. We talked about the map and the topography and your empire UI and that sort of thing. So the next sort of thing, the next section won't matter too much, but I'll go to a let's go here. We'll go to a game that I have. I'm in, I don't know, quite late in the game, and but that's okay, because everything still applies to late into the game. But I just wanted to show you some more advanced stuff. Don't get overwhelmed by the amount of territory and stuff there is. You can see here, obviously, don't pay attention to any of this. I'll close it for you so you don't have to see it. Anyways, this is a very big city I have going on. I want to look at a minor faction and see if I can assimilate them. Because, actually, we can go into the Empire screen. So over here, you can talk to minor factions, and you need a tech for that. It's actually in the first era down here called. Oh, actually, you can't do it as the necromorph. So it's normally right here, but since the necromorphs are they don't like talking, they don't get the tech. But anyways, they go right there, and that's how you talk to the minor factions. You can attack them and burn down their city, or you can bribe them with money. And then once you do that, once you have conquered the minor faction buildings in, I gotta find this region. Where is the minor faction in this region? Right here. So these guys, I burned down their village, and these are the orcs, and then I built their village back up, and then I can assimilate them. So once you do that, you go in here, and I've done that with quite a few different minor factions, and you can click on them and see their bonuses and the special unit you will get. So it's really cool, because you can sort of fill in the gaps of a faction. So maybe if you're a very, you know, science-based production faction and you need some beefier units, maybe you get these giant Urses and get the nice Rumbler infantry. And then, you know, you can see that they give you plus 5% building production costs. So you can assimilate these minor factions. In each game, you can do up to 3. You can see here there are 3 slots, and you get more slots with more technologies, and you get these cool, unique units. You know, the Driders, the Haunts, Delvers, Orcs, Urses. It's really, really cool. So even though there's only 9, well, there's 9 very unique factions that you can play as, but then you also get your army comp. You know, that's how you fill in the gaps for your army and get a very versatile army by filling in the gaps with these minor factions. It's awesome. So let's say we assimilate them, and we go boom. Now they are part of our faction. It's awesome. So, you know, each faction only has about 3 units unique to them. So you have to, like I said, get other units to comprise your army. You also get a bonus when you do that. You get a bonus to the population when you pacify a village. So pay attention to these guys on the map, because the minor factions play a huge role in your Endless Legend game. We talked about quests. We talked about the main faction quests. Here you can see we've got a couple different ones, and this is the main Necrophage quest, and obviously this one is a big one. It's 3 tiers. This one here is only 1 tier, and you only have to do one thing. Some, you're not going to pass them all. You might be lucky and might pass them all, but you get some really good bonuses for doing these. And if anything, do your faction quest as much as you can, because you get some amazing bonuses that are always unique to your faction. So that's great. Whether you get a special hero or a special technology or a special item or weapon, it's really, really cool. We'll skip on to, we talked about resources a bit. I'm going to go into the marketplace in a second. Let's talk about, oh yeah, bonuses. So you can see the strategic resources up here that apply to the different armors you can build. So if we go into our army builder and we take that orc we just hired and we want to edit him, we can see here that in order to equip this bow, you need titanium. This one requires glass steel. This one requires adamantium. So that's pretty cool. So we can give him that longbow. We go to the armors. Obviously, we've only researched the adamantium armor. Maybe we'll just give him some tier 3 normal armor. And down here, we'll give him a couple accessories. And you can see what this guy is going to cost. Because we've added those special adamantium bows, he's going to cost 20 adamantium and 392 production. Which is quite a bit. He's going to be a beast. He's got a ton of attack. He's got some very powerful weapons. So keep that in mind when you're building your units. You want to sort of balance out. Like even if we equip this adamantium armor, he's going to cost even more adamantium. Maybe you want to put on that titanium bow instead to bring the cost down. But now you can see he costs 3 titanium and 20 adamantium. Apply that. And he goes in there. Resources, yes. So that's the strategic. Here's the luxury. Oh wow, there's even more than 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's about 15 different ones. And we can see these spices are ready for a booster. I click that. It's going to cost me 40 spices. And I click that, and then the booster applies to all my cities, and I'm going to get a plus 50% food bonus. And that I can click any of those. I can do wine next turn. You can see I get 1 wine. Anyways, that's the luxury resources. Those are the boosters. I'll click that. Boom. Yes, I want the Empire boost. So you'll see that booster is active. It used 40 spices, and I'm down to 8, but I get that booster for 10 turns. Stockpiles are something that you get later on with tech. I won't go into it too much, but you can apply these stockpiles to cities that are falling behind or that need a boost, and you can get those for food, science, food, yeah, the FIDs, basically food, industry, science, and dust booster, or stockpiles. So if one city is doing really well, you can apply the boosters later on, but you do need that technology. So that's resources, we talked about that. The Empire plan, right here you can see that I have gone for military and science and industry. We can see if we go into this, because I'm on era 3, I have these first 3 tiers unlocked. I do not have the 4th era unlocked. I haven't hit that yet, so that's why that one is grayed out. And you can move these around, and it actually costs a different amount based on the number of cities, as I mentioned. So because I'm pretty late in the game, I have a lot of cities, but I'm also generating more influence. You can see down here I have 444 influence. That's quite a bit, and this is I can sort of simulate what's going on. So you can change your empire plan and sort of dictate what you want, but you have to have that influence. You can't just go full bore on all of those. You have to sort of balance it, because it's going to cost 3,000 influence, and that's impossible to get. Unless you're the Draken. The other thing that this does is that every 20 turns, you have a chance to change this plan. So don't worry if, you set something in motion and then things change. This is only, I'm on turn 130. So in 10 turns, I'm going to have an opportunity to change this. You can see next plan in 10 turns. And then maybe I want to stop fighting, recoup, and maybe I want to get some more dust production and get some more money going on. And then I would do something like that. And then, like I said, you get the access to each tier through the research age. And then you get that through influence, which is the last thing in FIDSI, right over here. I'm getting 20 per turn from this one city, because it's a huge city. If I want to move my guys over, we can get 44 per city. Like I said, you want to micromanage these guys as much as you can. It's really cool. We can do a balanced one if we want. I love micromanaging these guys. You can obviously go down here and tell your governor to manage those as best as possible, but I like doing it manually on my own. Let's get into diplomacy. So in the first sort of setup game with the Vaulters there, we didn't meet any other factions except for the Draken. That doesn't count because he gets to meet everyone at the start of the game. Let's go into the diplomacy screen here. And we can see these three races in the back. The Wild Walkers, the Ardent Mages, and the Broken Lords. They have been defeated, unfortunately. I might have had something to do with one or two of those. But we still have the Vaulters as well as the Draken here. So if we talk, and this is the sort of how they're feeling about you. So right now I am at Cold War with these guys, and if you hover over them, you can see what they're like. They're envious. They have closed their borders to me, and we can attack each other in neutral or third-party regions. This guy is terrified of me because they don't have as good of an army. Envious of me because we're on the common area, we're close to each other, and they have a lower global score and lower number of cities. So they the AI, when you play against AI, you can see sort of what they're feeling against you. Obviously against multiplayer, it's very different. Against humans, it's very different because you might be talking to them or who knows. Anyways, you can... what was I going to say? Oh yeah, these ones. So these will move, these little pieces will move up and down based on what they're feeling. So the warmer they are to you, they will come closer to you. So, this is at peace, this is an alliance, down here is at war. So if one of us declares war on each other, this guy, say the Drakon declares war on me, or I declare war on him, he will move down here. And then say I make peace with this guy, he will move closer to me. Once you go in, you can do that by going and clicking on them. You'll go into this diplomacy screen. And again, don't freak out. There's lots of different menus and that sort of thing. But once you play a couple games and you get used to it, it's nothing to be worried about. It's actually a lot of fun. And because there's not a ton, maybe I'll try and get into peace with him so I can, because I'm the necrophages, I'm not going to be able to do peace. I can only fight. But so bad example on diplomacy, but I'll kind of explain it as best I can. You can use you need influence to do anything in diplomacy. So even to declare war, I need 94 influence. To close my borders, I need 134. To complement them or to give them a warning, each cost 14. And you can see down here, declare war, costs 94, and I can say yes or no if I want to. Reset that. Or if I want him to open my borders, it's going to cost 54. To make this offer, it's going to cost 54 influence. Anyways, the point of it is it's so that you can't just pick on someone early in the game. You have to build up influence to be able to prevent or able to declare war. You can't just go in and rush somebody like that. There are strategies to build up influence and then rush somebody, but you really need to... It's a really interesting system, and that's why I think the Endless games, especially, you saw this in Endless Space, but even more so in Endless Legend, this influence comes into play. And we don't see that in other 4X games. We don't have this influence cost, so that's just another tier of strategy that I think is so cool. And they've actually based the Draken... Here, we'll go back, if we go back into here. These guys, these are all based... This is a diplomacy-based race. It's so cool. Yeah, like I said, you can make threats, compliments, and other gestures towards them. Obviously, since I'm playing as the mute necrophages, I can only declare war. Obviously, you can trade resources here. Stockpiles, cities, and technologies once you are at peace with them. You can't do that when you are Cold War or at war. So once you make it up to here, you can start actually doing some higher diplomacy things, but my race can't do that in this particular example. We're almost done. We're almost done explaining the intricacies of Endless Legend. But actually, this is more of an overview. It's not even the intricacies of it. So we talked about the Empire plan. We talked about diplomacy. I want to go into some battles and show you some cool stuff about the battles. So let's find one of our heroes. This guy is actually going back here. Well, let's just end this turn. And you'll see, because I'm managing such a large empire here gives you a really good idea of the sort of cloth map. Oh, go away, please. Oh, I'm in a battle. We can do that. Just minimize that for a second. Look at that. A beautiful, beautiful cloth map. And you can see I've sort of sectioned off the western part of this continent, whereas the Vaulters and the Drakon are sort of spread out around here. I'm very happy with my annexing of these territories. Unfortunately, in this particular game, I expanded a little too fast, and my empire approval went down the toilet. You can see everyone's unhappy, and the approval is like 34%, but I don't care because I just kill everyone and eat them. So, anyways, I just wanted to show you that because at the start of the cast, I didn't give you a good idea of what that map looked like because we hadn't discovered much of it. And of course, it can wrap around. It's beautiful. I love it. So, on the side here, this is sort of your turn summary, which I think is invaluable. It'll tell you everything, and you can, when you dismiss it, it will go away. When you minimize it, you're like, oh, I'll check that later. Obviously, this is super important, and it will remind you when you have no construction in a queue or some town needs your assistance, and that's how you sort of go into the micromanagement. So I know that they completed their public granary on this particular town, and now I want them to build something else. So maybe I want them to build a borough street, so to expand this city into the next territory. So we'll go here and we'll tell them to build. In 5 turns they will have a new part of that city, and that will give them more tiles and more FIDC bonuses to this particular city. So that's how you sort of expand your cities. I know I didn't touch upon that. That's a little more detailed than I want to go in this sort of overview of Endless Legend. But let's get to a battle. It'll be the last thing we do, and this is the battle screen. So when you are being attacked or you attack somebody, it comes here. It gives you a summary. In the middle, it kind of gives you your odds. So I am highly favored in here. You can see, almost 70 to 80% favored. Choose your global strategy: offensive, defensive, or hold position. And what's cool in Endless Legend is you can do it manually, spectator, or auto. Do not be afraid to do auto because it is actually really good. Obviously, don't do it for every battle because it will, you're not going to win every battle with auto battle, but it's actually super fair when compared to some other strategy games. So, but I want to, and you can obviously retreat. You can show the location. So location is over here. And I want to fight because I want to go into here and show you what I was saying about topography and how. So your army travels around as one unit on the map, and we can even go check that out right now. So down here, this is one of my dudes. This is my army. He has 6 guys in it, as you can see, 6 people, 6 units, but it only appears as one on the map just for UI purposes. But if you go into where my battle is happening, my army expands, and look how awesome they are. I love it. So we can see I have a variety of units. Here's my hero unit. So we have a couple different phases. First off, deployment phase. You get green tiles of where you can deploy your units and move them around, and the enemy's colors, so since this is a neutral faction, they're white, so they can deploy their units all around here. So I'm gonna sort of shift these guys around as I see fit. Move this guy over here. Move this guy up here. This guy over here. I'll put, this guy right there. So these flags are where if you have reinforcements they will come in there. But anyways, let's talk about the topography because this is the main point I want to get across. Right here, you can see, I can't spin the camera around, but right here, I am on higher ground than these guys, so my guys will get an attack and defense bonus when fighting. Same with this guy. He is on higher ground than these guys. However, if you look on this tile very closely, there is a forest. That will cover you from ranged attacks. So, and that is an actual forest in the map. It is, you can see here. So there's trees on the actual map that give you good production, but they also come into play in battle. They're just use this is a really cool design choice where they make the tile just these little sketches of forest so it doesn't interfere with your units, which I love. And you can see I've customized these guys. I've given these guys like cool 2-handed swords, and these guys have over here some shields, and you can retrofit your units as you upgrade them so they don't become redundant. So let's go. This is deployment. I've deployed my guys. You can use these little buttons here to move them all backwards or forwards. And you can reset if you want, but let's go into the next phase, which is your targeting phase. So this is where you tell your units sort of what you want to do. So I want this guy to attack here, you attack here, you kill him. I want this guy to go here, here, and you can give more detailed stuff, like you can say go here and then attack that, and a little bit more detailed, which is kind of interesting. And yeah, so that's the targeting phase. And then you'll see up here, this is where your initiative comes into play. So initiative, he has 37, my guy is 42. All my guys are going to act first before these two demons act. And that's sort of the active time battle there. And then I'll hit launch, and it'll all go into play. So you can see I took 0 damage because my guys get a defensive bonus, and they're all just going to rush these big demons. So obviously manual battles are super fun, but if you just want to do an auto battle, that's fine too. Kind of choose your strategy, what you want to do. Deployment phase, targeting phase, you know, pick what you want to kill, move, give priority to your units. Positioning in this game is so important, and I can't stress that enough, and that's one of the cool things, is that the battles are just as fun as managing your empire and walking around on the map. If we're going to bring it down, the sort of exterminate phase is awesome. Possibly the best. This might be my favorite battle system in this, and we'll see. We'll just launch this again quickly. Positioning so important. He is getting a ranged defensive bonus, but he is on lower ground than these guys, like I said, and they're just going to pummel him down. My guys are beefed. 6 versus 2, he didn't stand a chance. So they'll go through their turn, finish it off, and once yeah, and they all crawl back into his butt. And you'll see here, victory, we all did some stuff. So we got some experience, how many things died, how many stockpiles we got from the necrophage. That's a necrophage ability, I won't talk about that. But so yeah, your hero gets experience, your units get experience, they'll level up. You can see this is a level 2 forager, and we'll minimize that. So that was a battle. I didn't talk about unit types. We can talk about that later in another video, but there's like infantry, there's flying, there's ranged, and support, and it's not really a rock, paper, scissors thing, but some units are better against others, and that also comes into play with the weapons you equip them with. So keep that in mind. Oops, I didn't want to do that. I guess I'm exploring with those foragers. Got some dust. I think that's all I wanted to talk about for Endless Legend. I know I went on for quite a while, but oh, last thing, marketplace. This is where you can see the different resources. So strategic resources you can buy, luxury resources you can buy and sell. So you can buy and sell everything here. Stockpiles, units. When things die and when people sell them, you can buy the units, and heroes. You can buy new heroes. Very important to get, you know, a governor, at least a governor, and at least a warmonger hero if you're in a fighting faction. It's super important to make sure you assign some heroes to your cities. That's another unique thing with the heroes. You can see if I go into my city management that I have in my main capital city, Karis here. He is my governor for the city. He is giving awesome bonuses because of his skill here. He's got like, yeah, +8 food. I kind of built him in more of a warmonger, but one of my quests required me to put him on the city, so he's kind of hanging out there. I can go, say I go to this one that is in Rebellion, and I want to assign a hero, and I assign Feeds on Bones. Do that. Boom. He is now the governor of this city, and he will help the production of that depending on his skill tree. He's sort of leveled up his food production. Anyways, talked about battles, talked about everything I wanted to talk about in this first video. So that has been Endless Legend overview, what kind of game it is, how it's different, how it's the same, and it's just a beautiful game. Go check it out on Steam. Made by Amplitude. These guys know what they're doing, and they get the community involved, so support them however you can. I'm really digging this. This is probably my favorite 4X game now, and I've been telling people, if you were disappointed by Civilization Beyond Earth and you wanted something a little bit different than Civilization, go for this. If you're used to things like Heroes of Might and Magic, at games of that nature, those strategy games, this is going to be right up your alley. It's just got a little bit different systems going on, but once you get used to sort of like the FIDC system and the battle system, it's awesome. I can't say enough good things about Endless Legends, so we'll stop the video there, and thank you so much for watching, and we'll get to some playthroughs in the upcoming weeks here with the different factions. I can't wait to show you guys. Thank you everyone for watching. This has been Locke, and we'll sign out.